Welcome to Iraqi Dinar Updates, your go-to source for real news, sharp analysis, and the latest on the Iraqi economy and dinar revaluation. If it matters to Iraq's future, you'll hear it here first. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a crucial update. Iraq's recent engagement with the World Bank marks another significant step in the country's pursuit of international partnerships, but not all developments are being met with optimism. When Iraq's Minister of Finance, Taif Sami Mohammed, welcomed the delegation from the World Bank's Environment section, the conversations reportedly centered on environmental initiatives and advancing the idea of transforming Iraq into a green economy. While the language surrounding this move sounds progressive and aligned with global climate goals, there's an underlying current of skepticism, especially when viewed through the lens of recent history in other nations that attempted similar transformations. On paper, the transition to a green economy emphasizes sustainability, cleaner energy, and reduced environmental impact. The narrative promises jobs in renewable sectors, healthier communities, and long-term growth. However, reality has often painted a very different picture. In countries like Spain and Germany, similar green initiatives have resulted in economic backslides rather than progress. These are cautionary tales that Iraq would be wise to study thoroughly before committing itself to the same path. Spain, for instance, aggressively pursued green energy with massive government subsidies and incentives for solar and wind energy. The results? For every so-called green job created, the country lost more than 2 traditional jobs. Investment dried up, electricity prices soared, and unemployment skyrocketed. The Spanish economy was left grappling with the consequences of politically driven environmental policy that lacked practical economic balance. The very sectors that were supposed to be rejuvenated under the green transition were hollowed out, leaving behind disillusionment and financial instability. Germany, another prominent example, embraced its own version of the Green Dream under the Energen program. While initially celebrated as a bold stride toward clean energy, it has become a cautionary tale of overreach and unintended consequences. The shift away from nuclear and fossil fuels, coupled with the inability of renewable sources like solar and wind to provide consistent, scalable power, led to skyrocketing energy costs. Many Germans struggled to heat their homes during winter as energy prices reached unsustainable levels. The economy felt the weight of instability, and Germany has since been forced to walk back many of its ambitious green policies to prevent further economic damage. Now, with Iraq being introduced to similar environmental strategies under the guidance of international institutions like the World Bank, it's reasonable to question whether these plans are genuinely tailored to Iraq's unique socio-economic landscape, or if they're simply copy-pasted models from the West. Iraq is still in a phase of recovery and rebuilding after decades of conflict, corruption, and infrastructural decay. Its economy is heavily reliant on oil revenues, and despite ongoing efforts to diversify, any radical shift toward green policies could pose serious risks to its fragile stability. To be clear, this isn't a denial of environmental challenges. Iraq does face real issues of water scarcity, desertification, pollution, and resource mismanagement that need to be addressed. But solving those problems doesn't necessarily mean turning the nation upside down in the name of green ideals. There's a vast difference between strategic environmental reform and full-scale economic transformation under vague promises of a greener future. The danger lies in adopting ideologies that have already shown to be deeply flawed elsewhere. The concept of a green economy has merit when applied with pragmatism, realistic timelines, and proper consideration of a country's existing strengths and vulnerabilities. Iraq should be focusing on hybrid solutions, modernizing its oil sector to make it cleaner and more efficient, investing modestly in renewables where feasible, and strengthening environmental regulations without dismantling what little economic structure it currently has. Any approach that seeks to undo the foundations of Iraq's current economy in favor of unproven alternatives is likely to result in more harm than good. Let's not forget that Iraq's population is still struggling with basic services. electricity, clean water, healthcare, and education remain inconsistent across the country. Pushing forward with massive green programs while those core issues remain unresolved could divert critical resources from areas that need immediate attention. Worse yet, it could breed more public frustration and disillusionment, especially if the promised benefits of the green transition fail to materialize as something that has happened time and again in other countries. One of the less discussed aspects of these green transformations is the external influence they carry. The World Bank, like many international organizations, often comes with strings attached. Their environmental funding programs may sound generous and forward-thinking, but they usually involve a range of conditions that can box a country into rigid economic models. For a developing country like Iraq, that means less room for maneuver, less flexibility in responding to domestic needs, and increased dependency on external advisors who may not fully understand local dynamics. So as the World Bank pushes its green agenda in Iraq, it's fair to call into question whether this is truly about environmental stewardship or just another experiment being run in a country that can't afford to gamble with its future. Iraq should tread carefully. It must distinguish between what's truly sustainable and what's merely politically fashionable. The stakes are too high for blind adoption of strategies that have already failed elsewhere. What Iraq needs is stability, realism, and solutions grounded in its own reality and not a one-size-fits-all green blueprint with a track record of economic wreckage. In the end, going green shouldn't mean going broke. And for Iraq, ignoring the lessons of Spain and Germany might just mean repeating thema with even graver consequences. Thanks for watching Iraqi Dinar Updates. Stay informed, stay ahead. Drop a comment below. Share your thoughts, and we'll see you in the next report. Until then, stay sharp and stay dinar aware.